But Thomas, you start us out, man. You give your thoughts on the you give your theory on what you think might be going on right now.
Yeah. So last night we talked about the fact that maybe I said something about James Franklin might be one half of the picture that we're seeing as fans. And when that firing happened, he might just be one half of the issues going on up at Penn State. Okay. My thoughts,
Okay.
just my thoughts, just my general theory might not be correct. But I just want to say this. It might be long-winded. I'm reading from the text that I sent last night. So,
Yep.
The other administrative and financial issues and the power dynamic with Kraft potentially turned toxic, and the relationship dwindled with James Franklin. This starts out, we're going to go back to Joe Pa days. It's no surprise that when Joe Pa left the program, a huge void and power mantle imploded at Penn State. And that mantle for leadership was being re-identified with then Bill O'Brien, who saved the program, and then re-identified with Franklin. James Franklin brought some successes and wanted financial gain and authority rivaling Joe Pa. And who wouldn't? He wanted to be Joe Pa. When you're at Penn State, you want to embody what Joe Pa meant to that program. It would be the same thing as DeBoer wanting to be Saban. Lofty expectations, trying to get that money to supplant him for that long-term success with that power grab. So this is evident. The administration, however, never wanted something like this to happen ever again. In my theory, it instilled an athletic director after Sandy in Kraft who could be more of a conventional but tough authority figure on the head coach. So the administration side of things, it's instead of it just being Joe Pa, now it's your traditional athletic director, your board of trustees, your presidents, and the power dynamic is more collective, let's say. A little bit different than what happened with Joe Pa and then the subsequent things that happened thereafter negatively.
Mm-hmm.
You could say, going back to Franklin, you could say that Franklin was meddling in power dynamics above that of a head coach. But you could also believe that Kraft had his meddling affairs as well in handling the football team. I sent a video, and this was of the Villanova game, but it's synonymous with every home game this year. You see James Franklin on the sidelines, and you see Kraft to the left of him, just speaking his mind the entire game. If you're at, let's take this to common sense, like practicality at any job. If your boss is right next to you and you're trying to lead and try to do your job, are you going to be at your best when you're being overlooked right next to you and somebody's just shouting out whatevers? I'm not saying that might be Kraft that's doing that. I'm not saying that that's the way to go. But is that the power dynamic then that Kraft wants to have with the next head coach? I will now kind of go into the fact of what Kraft came in there to do as an AD and what Franklin, kind of backtracking a little bit on what Franklin was hired to be. James Franklin was hired to take the program from O'Brien, make it a contender. And he succeeded in that, and now we're talking like mid-2015 to 19, when they won that Big Ten championship. They defeated Ohio State one time. Okay, the next step, taking that next step within the extension of what he got to then become that national perennial power, to win the big games, to get to the national championship. Almost did that last year. Okay. Kraft, on the other hand, Kraft is in there to help Franklin and Penn State. He's also there to supplant that more conventional approach, not just it being a one-man show, because obviously in this world of NIL, it's a lot on one person.
Yeah.
And it will almost never be that one man, like almost Joe Pa-esque show of a figurehead. Almost anywhere in college football anymore, it will have to be a collective. So going back to Kraft right now, overreach on both parties in this relationship with Kraft and James led to a very tumultuous relationship. You saw whenever he tried to get more money and have that extension to be more like Joe Pa, to have that long lifer Penn State coach. And Kraft was like, prove it. And then James Franklin was like, well, I'm going to work around you, Kraft, and I'm actually going to, try to get the money and try to get the extension above you. Go to whoever's above Kraft.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That started really severing the ties between Kraft and Franklin.
Mm-hmm.
So you go back to the sidelines of where he's kind of micromanaging the micromanager. People call Franklin a micromanager. People have said to been called Franklin a micromanager. I think Kraft's a little bit of that too, but I understand the justification of why. Because if you go behind somebody's back, you're going to be right there with them, making sure that either we're developing trust or, prove it. Is basically what Kraft was saying. The disconnect with Franklin and many of the boosters, that's something that's always been there. He wasn't what the old guard was. He wasn't what Joe Pa brought. He wasn't Happy Valley Joe Pa. And nor could he ever have recreated that. Joe Pa is one of a kind. What do you like? His whole entire storyline, you cannot recreate that at Penn State, especially not off the rebound. And James Franklin was PSU's real rebound. Wasn't O'Brien.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, turned out that way.
Yeah. So the disconnect of the administration to support Franklin, and with the Letterman, as you have explained in various other videos, can and might be a hindrance going forward that none of us see as diehard fans. One would hope that that Pat Kraft continues to strive for excellence, yet allows for coaches to coach and players to play. And what I mean by this is, right now, if you saw the Ford interview, the recruit Ford, there was an interview, it was on a different podcast, that he directly talked to Pat Kraft, not Terry Smith right now, but Pat Kraft is really the figurehead of Penn State kind of recruiting. It's kind of being pushed on Pat Kraft to explain the dynamic right now. Mm-hmm. So him and his family and his high school coach are actually going through Pat Kraft, and various other recruits are probably doing the same. Keep an open mind is what the replies were, which were Pat Kraft's words. His position coach is Barnes, and he alluded that he's trying to retain Barnes. Mm-hmm. So, those types of things. But what I'm really getting at is right now we're in that interim phase. We're in where that AD has added the athletic director. Pat Kraft has a lot more responsibilities that the head coach would, and to where his style of how he runs the organization now, does he leave that to a the next head coach? Does he leave that to Terry if Terry gets hired? Does he leave that to another head coach? Or does he keep on this power dynamic in this responsibility until somebody proves it? Or does he almost act like a Jerry Jones figure, a top level manager that is an owner, a manager, and a coach, you know? And that's what it concerns me, of why I say some of this responsibility could turn south with Pat Kraft. It's very easy to say, hey, come to Penn State. This is what we are. This is what we do. I speak for the team as Pat Kraft. To where then you have a triangle of, you have Pat Kraft at the top. You have Terry Smith right now as a pseudo interim coach / possibly back to an assistant, or, the same thing like what Franklin was, the coach in waiting, if this were to happen, the firing to happen. And then you have the new coach. So that creates like that dichotomy that we've been talking about of, who do I answer to as a player? Who do I answer to as an organization? That balance and feeling that out. When you don't have just one person that speaks for the entire team and it's aligned, an organization gets kind of gray. And they really have to iron that all out. I hope Terry stays for the benefit of Penn State. And I hope that Kraft finds a way to delegate these responsibilities back to a proven head coach as he proves himself. And I'm not knocking Kraft. I'm just saying where it could go wrong. And then you're at Penn State as a result of going wrong would be miles below what it is. James Franklin's built it up to mid-tier. Top 15 almost every single year or better. Not winning the best games, but we could have that dip in the next 2 years. Next 2 years are a rebuilding phase with recruiting, with people leaving, and we can hit that NIL hard like Pat Kraft wants to. He wants to hit the NIL hard. He wants to build a contender fast. He also wants to have the best of both worlds and a long sustaining head coach and long sustaining success. What is most important for Penn State? For me, it's that long sustained success. I've seen it through Harbaugh in Michigan. I've seen it through Meyer at Ohio State. Great coaches, but you win, and then you have all these issues going forward that just decimate the program. So you won all of it, but for what? And Penn State needs to be there. You said it the other night with tradition. Penn State needs to be a university that holds those values at the highest level. If anything, their honor and integrity come absolutely first, and we do this right. A get-rich scheme will not suffice at Penn State. It will throw out the donors. It will throw the program back 10 years. And I seriously hope that if Pat Kraft ever gets asked this question, would you rather have a national championship team next year, or would you rather have a sustained, long, successful program that attains a national championship, and you're competitive and you beat the Michigans and the Ohio States and you go to bowl games and win? Would you rather have that? For me, I'd rather have that. It's building something for the future.
Yes, you were saying that basically the dichotomy between Franklin and Kraft could have been half and half, which I don't think that's true. I think he was watching Franklin because Franklin was, first of all, he went behind his back to get more money when there's literally no reason for it. And I think Pat Kraft is in a position, he's doing the best he can. He came in, he took over a job that he knew what he was getting himself into. I knew he wouldn't put up with Franklin's crap, and he didn't. And we saw that. I said that for a long time, that he wouldn't put up with it, like asking for a raise, stuff like that. But so there's that. And then you were saying how Terry and his one presser on Monday, that he looked like he was a little upset that maybe he was told no about the head coaching position, compared to Saturday night, which the 2 days are totally different. He's coming off. He's got so much adrenaline going Saturday night after all of that happened, that, yeah, he's going to look different. Maybe he was told no, maybe he wasn't. I don't know. But he's I think Pat Kraft is doing the best job he can. He said from day one, this is going to be my search, 110% buy-in from me. I checked with Chris Gorky last night about what you said, and he hasn't heard anything to that effect. So I think Pat Kraft is in a really hard spot, but he knew what this would be, and I think he's doing the best he can to make this work. I think it's going to work out really well. Penn State will always have long-term success. Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's Penn State. There's a lot of people that talk crap about Penn State. It is what it is, but it's a blue blood program. To me, it's the Mecca, and you would be crazy not to take a head job here, unless you're just not ready for it. But I kind of understand what you're saying, Thomas, but I just not to take anything away from what you're saying. That's your theory. That's a theory. And I just think that ultimately Penn State is they're literally doing the best that they possibly could right now. They beat Nebraska. They beat Michigan State. Hopefully they beat Rutgers. Then they're going to a bowl. And whoever they play in that bowl, I think our roster will play under Terry Smith. There's a lot, so I think that's kind of like the situation where I think Pat Kraft and Terry probably get along great, but there's probably a little bit of a rift right now because Terry wants the job and a lot of people want him to have the job. That's why he has to stay. I don't think there's any chance that he does leave us right now. He loves Penn State. He loves these players. He loves this school. And I just don't see him ever leaving. People are saying that some people were like, "Would you think he'll leave for go to VT?" No, because he is way too smart to do that. Yeah, he's way too smart to do that, and he loves Penn State. So the only thing that worries me, based off what you said, is if there is some rift there, and he is looking past or stepping over Terry Smith, Pat Kraft is going to be the next one that's going to be let go of Penn State. Yep. We're not going to put up with that.
This hire is his job too. He's going to ride or die on this hire.
His job is on the line. But if there's ever serious word that he's not treating Terry with respect, he's in trouble. So we'll just say that he is not going to be welcome here very much longer. So I hope he's showing Terry Smith the due respect that he deserves, but also keeping it realistic that Terry Smith, well, yes, we'll get into the search, but the only part that worries me is if he is not respecting Terry Smith, and I really hope that's not happening. I doubt that's happening, that he is respecting Terry Smith. I'm sure they get along great. But based off what you said about the Monday presser, I don't know. He seemed okay to me, but he may want the job and he's not going to get it. He gave his piece. He said, "I know Penn State better than anybody," which, to be fair, of course he does. Of course he knows Penn State better than anybody. Of course. But does that translate into what we want? And that's national championships. That's turning this around, in a timely manner and building this up for the future. Does it translate to that? Because, again, like we talked about the other night, tradition, you have to tie tradition in with today's game. We can do that here. Yes. But does Terry Smith, can Terry Smith's leadership as a head coach lead us to a national title? I say this, I know it can lead us to wins over Ohio State, Michigan, so-and-so, Oregon. I know he can beat them. There's no doubt about it in my mind. Can he win us a national title? Being on that big stage, that is something that you almost need experience somewhat. James Franklin last year, he was one game away. If they had done good this year, he would have known what that felt like going into that final game to get to the next game. He would have known what that's like because he was there. Credit goes to him for getting there. But he would have known what that's like. Marcus Freeman had no idea what that was like. And they beat us. I from what I remember, I don't think they were ever they were in the playoff. I think were they in the playoff under him at all at that point?
Oh yeah,
Freeman.
Freeman's first go was last year.
Mm-hmm. But I believe that Notre Dame was in the playoff earlier with Kelly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was
100%. Yeah, but Freeman. Yeah, you're right, Aaron.
Yep.
His first year was last year, and they went into Texas A&M and won. But Franklin, he would have had that experience this year if they had done well. That's a big stage. Like if Terry Smith makes it to the playoff, first of all, or does he make it to the semis or the national title? I have all the confidence in the world in him. I just and another thing too is it's his raw, but we'll get into that. But anyway, I think Pat Kraft and Terry Smith I think it's all okay, but the last thing that you said was there's going to be a triangle between him, Pat Kraft, Terry Smith, and maybe Bob Chesney if he's the head coach. We don't know. Yeah. But there could be a power triangle there that there might be some rift there like there was between him and Franklin. But I do think whatever went wrong in general and between him and Kraft, that was on Franklin. I mean, it's not like the guy wasn't like that before and he didn't rub other people the wrong way. So, yeah. Anybody else want to say?
Yeah, Mark. One thing I'm not sure about, and I think I mentioned this in our discussion, was I don't remember when, and I'd have to go look at the tape, when Pat became the left hip on the football field when he was out there.
Well, 23 he was out there.
Was he out there? Okay.
Yeah, so like Ohio State in 23, he was right there. Yeah.
Okay. Post 22, but 23. The reason that's significant to me is when I looked at the team, I always judge how a team is doing mostly by the way it shows up on the field. And I didn't really see a substantial change in Penn State at any time from 21 in terms of the way they played, from 21 through 25. Even the collapse this year, I know it was surprising, but I wasn't super shocked by it necessarily because this was a team that had a habit of playing down to competition. As I've said before, they would disappear for 30 minutes of a game and then have to come charging back at the very end. And to me, it was just, hey, this time you didn't make it back against UCLA, and you didn't make it back when you needed to with Northwestern. But it wasn't like the style of football or the quality of football was substantially different. They just were getting away with it, and this time they didn't. And it was bound to happen sooner or later. If you play with fire, you will get burned. So that was kind of how I saw that. Was I don't know that Pat Kraft being on his hip changed much, other than Pat Kraft, I guess, being annoyed with him and wanting to be on his hip, which is, it's never fun if you're trying to coach a game and you've got your AD on your hip right there. I'm sure it's not a lot of fun. But at the same time, I also don't know what motivated, like what put Kraft there in the first place. Were there things that other coaches were saying? Were there things the offensive coordinator was saying? Hey, Franklin's interfering with my play calling. He wants to intercept every single play call I want to send to the field or something like that. And that convinced Kraft that he needed to be on the field to try and control something. I don't know. But it is very strange that he felt compelled to do that. But the timing of it, like I said, if it was right after he got his extension and a whole lot of stuff changed right there, I might feel more like Kraft was impacting it in a negative way by being there. But I didn't see a significant change to the way they play football from 22 to 23 to 24. I still saw all the same things that made me say at the beginning of the year, they're not going to beat Ohio State. They're not going to beat, Michigan, because the way they play, they can't win like that. It's not going to work. But that was my take on it.
Yeah, I'll just say this. Thomas sent us a video earlier in the chat. At the end of I think it was the Villanova game when they scored at the last second, and Pat Kraft was there, Franklin was there. They were both hands on knees watching the play. They caught it in the back of the end zone. I thought that was very odd when I saw that because of the way Franklin reacted. He handed his headset off and walked onto the field. It's like he didn't even care. Now, if that was Terry Smith, I think he would be pretty upset. You never saw Franklin yelling at refs, really. Terry has been cussing refs out left and right since he started. So,
yeah, he does that.
It's not the first time he's been right behind him like that. And I thought that whole reaction was odd of Franklin. But I never felt like them being on the sideline together. I thought they probably got along pretty good, honestly. They had their disagreements, but I think they got along professionally. I think they got along just fine. I never thought that was weird or anything. I like Pat Kraft being on the sideline. I want all of our main coaches on the sideline. I don't want anybody in the booth. You can have other guys up in the booth. They have eyeballs too. Put them in the booth. You need to be on the field. So, yeah, I think the AD being right there, first of all, he's the AD of the whole school, but he's on the sideline of a Penn State football game. That's a big deal to me that the AD is there with the head coach during games. Again, he's the AD of the entire school. There's multiple programs that he's got to worry about, but on game day, he's on the sideline. So that shows me he cares. So I never thought that was odd or anything like that, but like you said, Aaron, I don't think it affected him too much. I think Franklin affected himself more than anything.